Well, today I wanted to talk about a question I get asked quite a bit in my field. How do I make my computer faster? We've all experienced this, correct? So, in cases of you saying to me, you know, the computer's only about 2 or 3 years old, but it just doesn't seem to be as fast as it was. What I'm going to assume for this presentation is there's nothing really wrong with the computer. Let's just presume that the computer is fine. There's no hardware issues with it. There's no viruses. There's no Windows corruption. Let's just presume I've looked at the computer and I've said, you know, as far as I can tell, it's tweaked and it's optimized as best as it can do. What can we do to get more power and efficiency out of your aging computer? Now, the older way of doing it, or the thing that had been most commonly used, is to do a RAM upgrade. Have y'all heard of RAM, memory RAM, upgrade your memory? What the RAM memory is, just easily said, is that it's basically your applications. How many programs can you have open at one time? Let me be clear that even if you just turn on your computer and don't have anything open, Windows has turned on. Windows is more than just one program. Windows is at least a dozen, maybe 2 dozen things going on in the background. So without anything else opening, you're using up your application memory. And that's why I think that even for a simple computer user, you should really at least have 4 gigs of RAM on a Windows 7 computer. And to be honest, I really just prefer, I don't really sell a computer. If you request that be on it, fine. But I recommend, even for simple users, to go ahead and get that 8 gig because you don't know what's going to be around the corner. For example, one of my customers, they've had their computers for a long time, but they're in great shape. But the problem is they just had an upgrade to their vendor software that they use for their business, and that software now is requiring 8 gigs, and now they're struggling with it. But for the most part, these users, they simply use it just to browse the internet and use the software. So the 8 gigs, I think, is just a good idea, and it's not that expensive to do. For your more advanced users, I would require at least 16 gigs. 32 may be a bit much, but 16 gigs, at least that'll certainly carry you over for the next, few years or so, I think. Now, if a computer is suffering from underpowering RAM, adding more memory to it is simply going to stabilize it. So if you don't have enough RAM in the computer and you put more RAM in, it doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily see the computer boosting and going a lot faster. In the case of the customer I just mentioned, where it turns out their software that they're using, they're struggling right now. They can't even run the programs. It's locking up, it's freezing, things are happening. So the computers aren't even performing at all well. And I had ran some viruses, and yeah, there were some virus issues, but it turned out to be underperforming in RAM. So when I put more RAM in their computers, it's just going to stabilize it. So from an employee side of things, or the user side of things, it's just going to feel like, oh, this is the way it was before. So now again, my assumptions are what I really want to recommend is, again, the assumptions: everything is fine, RAM size is adequate, nothing is wrong with the hardware, no viruses, no Windows or software corruption. So what I would recommend doing now, and it's a new program that I'm about to start, is replacing your hard disk drive with a solid state drive. Well, that sounds interesting, Shannon. What does that mean? Now, I'm going to show a slide in a minute to show some of the differences. But basically, for the last few years, computers have increased in RAM, they've increased in CPU speed, and the size of the hard disk has stayed the same. But the speed of your disk drive has remained the same. They spin. It's a stack of platters, and they spin at 7,200 RPM, and that's been the case for years and years and years. A solid state drive is what you experience when you have your iPhone, your iPad, some other audio players, phones, and now some of the more expensive like Surface Books, Surface Pros, those are already coming with solid state drives. Those are one-piece units, they're more durable, and then I'm going to click on the next slide to show the difference in them. So, just to basically, I guess you probably can't see the differences because the numbers are probably kind of small, but these stats actually look a lot better. The noise on an SSD drive is none. It's lightweight. Important is shock and vibration. It's much more durable. That's why you can jog with, say, your phone versus you don't take your laptop going, or you shouldn't go take your laptop jogging. So there's no moving parts on the inside, so they are more durable, but more importantly, they're faster. And in case studies, what you've seen actually, especially in boot up time, whereas your computer may take several minutes to boot up with Windows 7, with a solid state drive, it's a matter of seconds. And I just sold a really nice computer to Gary, and I guarantee that the majority of the speed that he's seeing is from his solid state drive on that computer. It gets to the data faster, and even though application memory is still important, I'm not saying that RAM is not important, but basically every time you do anything on a computer, it's got to access the data on it, and if your hard drive is slow or is maxed out at the speed it is, you're not going to get any faster and it's going to run slower. Does that make sense? Okay. Well, so now that I've said that, how do we go about it? What do we do? Say you have a laptop, say it's 2 or 3 years old, say it's even older. Say you want to put and speed it up. What I can do is I can image your current hard drive. What that means is taking it as it is. I'm not reformatting. I can do that, but that would be like starting over with the computer. Say this is Josh's computer, which it is. I could take it, I could re-image it, and ultimately it would be just like his desktop is now. If I image this machine and put it on a different hard drive for him, when he boots it up, it's going to see, he'll have to actually go and look to see how the hard drive has changed to see the size file or how much faster. But as far as just looking and the actions of it, it's going to look the same. Does that make sense? Imaging it is basically taking the state it is in, and all your programs, all your data is in there just as it was. If you just installed a game on the computer and I image it, that game will be there still. Does that make sense? Okay. So what is the cost? That's the bottom line, right? The cost of it. Now, here's the problem with solid state drives. They are more expensive. Their capacities aren't necessarily as big. I wish I had made this table a little bit bigger. But to image a computer will be $100 flat fee. If you could drop it off to me, I will image the computer for $100. So again, reformatting actually costs more money and there's more work on you. When I image the computer, again, if say Robert has a computer at his house and he wants to just image it, just drop it off to me. When I image it onto the new hard drive, you won't have to do anything else. It'll be just like plugging it back in and exactly how you had it. If you just installed a new printer, that printer will still be on there and it'll still work as it was. The cost of the hard drives, a 256 gigabyte hard drive, SSD drive, ranges between $179 to $199. Those fluctuations happen due to the cost of market. Also laptops, desktops, there may be a bit of a difference. Also a 500 gigabyte drive is $269 to $329. Again, it depends on the market. I am putting a big range. But the thing I wanted to point out is these particular hard drives that I sell come with a 5-year warranty. And this is why I think it's not a bad idea. If you've got a computer that's 3 years old, chances are something could happen to it in the next couple of years, but you're hoping to get another couple of years out of it at least. Should you get one of my hard drives and we put it in and say in a year from now something goes wrong with the computer other than the hard drive, say the motherboard goes down, say you just flat out don't want to use it and you want to get a new machine, we can take the hard drive you bought and put it in the new machine in most cases. So we can reuse that hard drive and take that cost and fold it into the new computer. So this way I don't feel like you're necessarily putting money down the drain on an older machine. You're able to hopefully recycle it towards the next computer. Now, what if you spent only $400 on your laptop? Some of us do that, and that's fine. This isn't exactly the target market I'm looking for. But some people spend a lot of money on their computers. I'm doing one for a customer this week. His computer has now gotten out of warranty. He paid $3,000. He needed to. He's an engineer. He's got to take his laptop and do AutoCAD and do lots of different things. So ultimately, he doesn't have the money in his budget right now to do another $3,000 for another laptop. But he's actually going to do the 1 terabyte option, and that one actually has a 10-year warranty to it. So that's about a $450, it's actually a little bit less than that, but $450 plus $100, $550. If he can get another 2 or 3 years out of the computer and it's going to speed it up for him, that makes sense. And should something happen and the motherboard go bad or something that just isn't feasible to fix, now that it's out of warranty, we will take that hard drive and put it in the next computer he buys. So you see, I'm trying to help the customer so that they aren't basically just wasting money on some equipment that in some cases will die anyway on them. I'm trying to get them to not just extend the life of their computer, make them faster, but also should that computer die, they'll be able to reuse the device and it's not just wasted hardware. Does that make sense? And that's what I try to do for my customers, is I try to help them out best, but I also, sometimes people aren't aware of these options, or sometimes they just think, I'm going to throw some money into this, and then they wind up, there's my time, but they wind up spending all this money on an old machine and the machine dies, and then they can't use that hardware with the new computer, and it's kind of just wasted, and I hate to see that happen. Does that make sense? Is there any questions? Or you can do a one-to-one, I guess, but, or Josh?
Yeah, the traditional hard drive, does that use more battery?
It can use more power. In fact, let's see if I can go back to the slide before. Power consumption, yes. According to this particular one, because I don't know, believe it or not, I don't know the stats by heart, but it does use, it generates more heat actually is the bigger problem, but it takes a little bit more wattage, more power than, and yes, in essence, more battery. A solid state drive does not take up, according to this, 10 watts on the hard drive, standard one, and then less than 2 watts on a solid state. Again, that's why they're great for your phones and your iPads and your Surface Pros and why the batteries last longer. But more importantly, they generate a lot of heat and things. I guess that's God saying I need to stop. But,
I had one more question.
okay.
The price table, does that include the labor and the reformat, or is that just the price?
Plus $100. So that's the cost of the hard drive alone. So $199 for the hard drive plus $100 for my time. So
okay.
Basically the hard drive, I'm trying to make it easy, so $100 for the image. If you do want to do a reformat, in some cases, say the computer is bad with viruses, but you think the hardware's good and everything's good with it, and let's just go ahead and reformat. Maybe you want to do Windows 10, and I have to recommend what I'm seeing is Windows 10 works a lot better if you just go ahead and do a reformat with it. That's $200. But that allows me to also, I do some extra things. I get all your data off, I put the data back on as far as your documents and things, and I put some extra programs on there to help you out. So I do have reformatting options as well.
Excellent.